Welcome to the dark and violent world of organized crime. In this video, we uncover the most significant mafia wars in history. These brutal conflicts have shaped the criminal underworld and left a lasting impact on society. Join us as we explore the bloodiest and most notorious mafia wars that changed the course of history. Our journey begins in New York City with the Castellammarese War, a brutal power struggle between Joe the Boss Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano. This conflict arose from the desire to control the Italian-American mafia in New York. The war was characterized by intense violence and strategic assassinations. The war began in 1929 when Masseria, seeking to consolidate his power, faced opposition from Maranzano, who led a rival faction. Both sides recruited numerous hitmen, leading to a series of high-profile killings. One of the most significant moments was the assassination of Joe Masseria in 1931, orchestrated by Charles "Lucky" Luciano, who switched allegiance to Maranzano. Maranzano declared himself the boss of all bosses, but his reign was short-lived. Luciano, realizing the need for a more modern and structured organization, had Maranzano killed later that year. This led to the establishment of the Five Families and the Mafia Commission, which created a more organized and cooperative structure within the mafia. The Castellammarese War not only reshaped the structure of organized crime in America, but also laid the groundwork for future conflicts. Luciano's vision of a more collaborative mafia organization significantly influenced the mafia's operations in the following decades. Next, we move to Sicily for the Second Mafia War, a violent conflict between rival factions of the Sicilian mafia. Led by Toto Riina, the Corleonesi waged war against the Palermo-based families, resulting in massive casualties and a profound impact on Italian society. The war began in 1981 as Riina sought to establish dominance over the Sicilian mafia. The Corleonesi used brutal tactics, including car bombings and assassinations, to eliminate rivals. One of the most significant events was the assassination of Stefano Bontate, a powerful Palermo boss, which marked the escalation of the conflict. The violence peaked in 1982 with the murders of high-profile anti-mafia officials, including General Carlo Alberto Dalla Chiesa and prosecutor Giovanni Falcone. These killings shocked Italy and galvanized public opinion against the mafia. The Italian government responded with a series of crackdowns, leading to the eventual arrest of Riina in 1993. The Second Mafia War demonstrated the extreme lengths to which mafia factions would go to assert their dominance. The conflict's brutality led to significant law enforcement efforts to dismantle the mafia, resulting in the arrests and convictions of many key figures. In Boston, the long-standing feud between the Winter Hill Gang and the Charlestown mob turned the city into a battleground. This conflict was fueled by the desire to control the city's criminal enterprises, including drug trafficking and gambling. The war began in the 1960s with key figures like Whitey Bulger of the Winter Hill Gang and the Angiulo brothers of the Charlestown mob playing pivotal roles. The conflict saw numerous murders and disappearances as both sides sought to eliminate their rivals. One notable event was the murder of Edward "Punchy" McLaughlin, which escalated the violence. The war left a trail of blood and corruption, with Bulger eventually becoming one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. The Winter Hill Gang's influence grew in part due to Bulger's secret relationship with the FBI, which provided him with protection and intelligence on his rivals. The Irish Mob War exemplifies the deadly nature of organized crime feuds in America. The eventual capture and conviction of Bulger in 2011 brought some closure to the victims of this violent era. But the legacy of corruption and brutality remains a dark chapter in Boston's history. During the Prohibition era, Chicago witnessed violent clashes between Al Capone's Chicago outfit and the North Side Gang, led by Dean O'Banion. This conflict was fueled by the lucrative opportunities presented by the illegal alcohol trade. The rivalry began in the early 1920s with both gangs vying for control of Chicago's bootlegging operations. Tensions escalated with the murder of O'Banion in 1924, orchestrated by Capone. This led to a series of retaliatory killings, culminating in the infamous St. Valentine's Day massacre in 1929, where 7 members of the North Side gang were brutally executed. The massacre marked a turning point in the power struggle, solidifying Capone's dominance over Chicago's underworld. Capone's reign was marked by both ruthless violence and a level of public notoriety that made him a household name. The violence of the Prohibition era highlighted the extreme measures taken by organized crime to control lucrative illegal enterprises. Capone's eventual conviction for tax evasion in 1931 marked the beginning of the end for his empire. But the legacy of his bloody reign remains a significant part of Chicago's history. The Mafia-Camorra War in early 20th century New York saw a fierce battle between the Neapolitan Camorra and the Sicilian Mafia. This conflict was rooted in the rivalry between these two criminal organizations, each seeking to dominate New York's criminal underworld. The war began in 1915, with both sides engaging in a series of violent confrontations. The Sicilian Mafia, led by powerful figures like Giuseppe Morello, sought to assert their control over the city's criminal activities. The Camorra, under leaders like Pellegrino Morano, resisted fiercely, leading to a bloody stalemate. The conflict escalated with the murder of Nicholas Morello in 1916, a key figure in the Sicilian Mafia. This event galvanized the Sicilians, who launched a series of retaliatory attacks against the Camorra. The eventual dominance of the Sicilian Mafia was solidified by strategic alliances and the Camorra's failure to maintain unity. The Mafia-Camorra War set the stage for the Sicilian Mafia's future dominance in New York. The conflict demonstrated the ruthless nature of organized crime and the lengths these groups would go to secure power. The eventual decline of the Camorra in New York paved the way for the rise of the Mafia as the preeminent criminal organization in the city. In Japan, the Yakuza clan wars of the 1980s and 1990s saw major conflicts between powerful Yakuza clans, particularly the Yamaguchi-gumi and the Dojin-kai. These wars were marked by high-profile assassinations and public shootouts. The conflict began in the 1980s as the Yamaguchi-gumi, Japan's largest Yakuza organization, sought to expand its influence. The Dojin-kai, based in Kyushu, resisted this expansion, leading to violent clashes. One significant event was the assassination of Dojin-kai leader Seijiro Matsuo in 1987, which escalated the conflict. The violence continued into the 1990s, with both sides engaging in brutal street battles and high-profile hits. The Japanese government responded with stringent anti-Yakuza laws, aiming to curb the influence of these criminal organizations. Despite numerous crackdowns, the Yakuza remains a formidable force in Japan. The Yakuza clan wars of the 1980s and 1990s highlight the extreme measures taken by these groups to maintain their power and the ongoing struggle between law enforcement and organized crime in Japan. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia descended into chaos with the rise of powerful crime syndicates. The Russian Mafia wars of the 1990s saw violent power struggles among these groups, with Moscow and other cities becoming battlegrounds. The conflict began as newly formed crime syndicates sought to fill the power vacuum left by the fall of the Soviet state. Key figures like Vyacheslav Ivankov, also known as Yaponchik, played central roles in these power struggles. The violence was marked by car bombings, contract killings, and turf wars. One significant event was the assassination of Ottari Kvantrishvili, a major figure in the Russian criminal world, in 1994. This killing intensified the power struggles, leading to further violence. Law enforcement efforts to combat the mafia were often hindered by widespread corruption and the sheer power of the criminal organizations. The Russian Mafia wars highlight the volatile nature of organized crime in post-Soviet Russia. The eventual arrest and extradition of figures like Ivankov marked significant victories for law enforcement, but the influence of the Russian Mafia continues to be felt globally. In Colombia, The deadly confrontations between the Medellin and Cali cartels during the 1980s and 1990s were marked by extreme violence. Led by notorious drug lords like Pablo Escobar and the Ochoa brothers, these wars had a profound impact on the global drug trade. The conflict began in the early 1980s as the Medellin cartel, led by Pablo Escobar, sought to dominate the cocaine trade. The Cali cartel, led by the Rodriguez-Orejuela brothers, emerged as a powerful rival. The war saw numerous high-profile assassinations, including the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 in 1989, ordered by Escobar. The violence escalated as both cartels sought to eliminate each other and control the lucrative drug routes. The Colombian government, with support from the United States, launched a series of operations to dismantle the cartels. The eventual death of Pablo Escobar in 1993 marked a turning point in the conflict. The Colombian cartel wars devastated the country, leading to thousands of deaths and significant challenges for law enforcement. The eventual dismantling of the Medellin and Cali cartels reshaped the global narcotics landscape, but the legacy of these violent conflicts continues to impact Colombia. The ongoing conflicts within the Calabrian Ndrangheta involve internal power struggles and battles with rival mafia organizations. These feuds have led to significant violence both in Italy and abroad. The Ndrangheta, based in Calabria, has grown to become one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the world. The internal feuds often arise from disputes over drug trafficking routes and control of illicit enterprises. One significant event was the Duisburg massacre in Germany in 2007, where 6 members of a Ndrangheta clan were killed. The Italian government has made significant efforts to combat the Ndrangheta, resulting in numerous arrests and the seizure of assets. However, the organization's reach extends beyond Italy, making it a formidable force in global organized crime. The Ndrangheta's influence continues to grow, and their feuds underscore the ongoing threat posed by organized crime globally. The international operations of the Ndrangheta highlight the complexities of combating a deeply entrenched criminal organization. Finally, we return to New York for the internal conflicts within the 5 families during the 1980s. The struggle for control of the Gambino family after the murder of Paul Castellano saw key figures like John Gotti rise to power. The conflict began in 1985 with the assassination of Paul Castellano, orchestrated by John Gotti. This event marked a major shift in the power dynamics of the Gambino family. Gotti's rise to power was characterized by a flamboyant public persona and a series of high-profile trials. The internal conflicts within the Gambino family led to further violence, including the murder of Gotti's underboss, Frank DeCicco, in a car bombing. Gotti's eventual conviction in 1992 for murder and racketeering marked the end of his reign, but the power struggles within the 5 families continued. The New York Mafia Wars of the 1980s showcased the dangerous and often deadly power struggles within the American Mafia. These conflicts continue to shape the criminal underworld to this day, highlighting the persistent influence of organized crime in the United States. From the streets of New York to the heart of Sicily, these mafia wars have left an indelible mark on history. They remind us of the brutal reality of organized crime and the relentless pursuit of power. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the biggest mafia wars in history.